The COVID-19 pandemic has already cost at least 59,000 jobs in the Eastern Cape. About 14,000 of those positions have been shed in the past 3 months alone. The automotive sector is one of the major economic drivers in the province, and this sector is still recovering or trying to recover post-lockdown. The other critical economic area is agriculture, especially the province's world-renowned mohair sector. This natural fibre is produced mainly for export, with 95% of the clip leaving South Africa. But the demand for mohair is down as it is linked to textures and manufacturing. Other non-food products like cotton have been negatively affected. Let's cross to our reporter Lerato Fekisi in Port Elizabeth. A very good afternoon to you, Lerato. What else do we know from the Eastern Cape?
A very good afternoon to Nzinga. Well, economists have described the Eastern Cape economy as crippling and bleeding. This actually came before lockdown and post-lockdown. The unemployment rate, Nzinga, in the province has reached a scoring 52.8%, which is the highest in the country. And as we go towards the midterm budget speech by Minister Mboweni, the economists are saying they are hoping that he's going to address issues of youth unemployment, which is also huge in the province, and also find ways to tackle unemployment. But I was speaking to my guest earlier on, and he was saying the key factors for this midterm budget speech by the Minister of Finance, Mboweni, is how do we deal with the debt that's facing the country? And then secondly, how do we deal with the revenue? How do we find ways to get money into the country? Because we are aware that so much money is going out, but too little is coming in, and therefore such sectors cannot really be dealt with actually. So let's just talk quickly now to Professor Ncwadi, who is the head of economics and tourism at the Nelson Mandela University. Mr. Ncwadi, earlier on you were talking, you were saying the key factors for this budget speech are revenue and dealing with the debt in the country.
That's right, yes. Everyone is indebted beyond COVID-19 because COVID-19 has actually led to a decline in the economy. Eastern Cape particularly suffered a double blow, the so-called simultaneous demand and supply shock. Then, of course, the manufacturing sector, which is key in the Eastern Cape, has been badly affected because the manufacturing sector depends on the international world, like exports and imports. And, of course, your tourism. As you all know that there was no tourism taking place during that time. So everyone is indebted. And you must remember, during the time of the lockdowns, these companies had to continue paying their fixed costs. So now they are sitting with all the debts. So we are expecting that, the medium-term budget policy statement is going to address how they are going to fight the debt and, of course, help their households and firms to, again, create jobs to employ the people that have lost their jobs during the lockdowns. When
you speak of jobs, and you also not speak of jobs and speak about the issue of unemployment in the metro and also in the province as well. It's now sitting at 52.8%, the highest in the country, quite scary statistics. What then becomes a way forward for government to really practically deal with the issue? Because I feel every time there is a budget speech, they speak about youth unemployment, but they don't seem to be cracking it exactly as to which kind of skills do youth need to sustain themselves 10 years and beyond, so the economy can sustain them as well.
So, we cannot go under the old order in trying to address the impact of the COVID-19. We have to ensure that we generate new set of skills that are required post-COVID-19. We all know that we went into online platforms, meaning that there's going to be new skills that we need that are basically on technology, mathematics, and so forth. And also, the other way is to look at the macro economy of the Eastern Cape. In other words, we need to grow the economy to create jobs, because you cannot create jobs from an economy that is declining. To grow the economy, we need to focus, one, on your firms. The medium-term budget policy statement have to look to see how do we help the firms that were shut down or were struggling, how do we revive them? Then your household, we need to help the household with some incomes so that they can be able to demand what is produced in the firms. Because remember, the demand for work or for employees is a derived demand. There must be work created for them to be demanded. So we need to look at demand side and the supply side simultaneously in order to create jobs for the Eastern Cape.
And then, Prof, a huge economic driver for the Eastern Cape has been the agricultural sector, which has been crippled by a drought and then also lockdown as well. Many of the complaints of the farmers that they don't have enough government support, that there are these huge supplies in terms of food, in terms of livestock, but in terms of financial support from government, they say that is lacking as well. Are you hoping that this was something that's addressed also during his speech?
Yes, indeed. Agriculture is one of the key sectors in the Eastern Cape. So for that, you know that during the COVID-19, agriculture was affected as well because of the shutdown. The restaurants didn't buy the fruit and veg as they usually do. So the farmers need to get assistance from Land Bank, from some subsidies to boost the agricultural sector. Even the US, they talk about globalization, but what the US done, they protected the agricultural sector. They didn't expose them immediately to global competition. So we need to ensure we protect the agricultural sector from global exposure so they can become strong before they compete globally. At the moment, we have a competition globally and it affects the agricultural sector. So we need those subsidies from Land Bank to the farmers and as well ensure that we protect the primary sector from exposure to global competition and also encourage the South African products, people to buy from South Africa, so-called proudly South African products from our agricultural sector. I think that will help to boost the farming sector.
Professor Ncwadi, another deterrent to the growth of the economy is the issue of corruption within the Eastern Cape and the country as well. We saw about 500 billion being spent illegally on PPEs. Are you hoping that the Minister of Finance also zooms into government playing a responsible role of accountability in terms of the corruption that's crippling this province and also the country?
Corruption has created a lot of inefficiency, meaning no matter how much money you make, whether it's through investments, as we heard the president talking when he was giving his speech on economic restructuring. So if corruption still exists, it's going to affect the distribution of income, and we're not going to be able to help people out of poverty. And also, let's talk about SOEs. SOEs, there's nothing wrong with them. But if we reduce corruption that takes place through these SOEs, we are able then to improve efficiency and the level of income, and will stimulate the economy. But as long as corruption exists, it's going to make all our gains in terms of investment suboptimal. So we hope that the medium-term budget policy statement is going to also address issues of corruption, because we've seen it under the COVID-19. So much corruption took place in these PPEs and so forth. So we expect that this matter is going to be addressed and that there will be action taken against those that are found guilty of corruption. If we reduce corruption, then obviously we will optimize our gains from every investment in South Africa.
The last thing, Professor, I read a quote where someone was saying the piggy banks are empty, unemployment is high, joblessness is high. Good luck, Mr. Minister, you've got a high mountain to climb. And this person was saying that he does not see us surviving post the lockdown because of how bad the economy is doing. Do you think there is a recovery plan, there is a way for us to get out of the dark patch in terms of our economy? And what must the minister zoom in on to get us out of the dark hole?
Yes, I know. I believe there is a hope. Every recession is always followed by an upswing. It's not, is there a hope or no hope? There is a hope, but the question is how long? That's what matters in economics, is how long will it take for us to get out of the draw towards the upswing. And that speed of adjustment is going to be dictated upon by the policies we implement. So what kind of policies are we going to apply to take the economy out of the recession? So there are various policy options. Now you've got a fiscal policy, which is government expenditure and revenue. You've got monetary policy, which is the interest rate. But there's a third one, which is structural policies. So we have to focus, the MTPBS must focus mainly on the structural issues of the country. That is what is troubling us in this poverty. So to get out of the recession as soon as possible, restructure this economy. And then, of course, after that, we are able to talk recovery.
Well, that was Professor Ncwadi, who is the head of economics and tourism at Nelson Mandela University, saying that there is hope at the end of the tunnel, but what's going to be key for us to recover in this economy is to redo the structures, reconstruct the structures, and then perhaps we'll see the silver lining coming, saying that he's looking forward to the midterm budget speech by the minister, wanting to hear exactly how do we deal with debt, how we deal with corruption, and above all, how we're going to make sure that we generate money into the country at a time where unemployment and joblessness is so high. So we look forward to hearing that, and we will see exactly if these issues will be addressed by the Minister of Finance when he speaks to the country in about 2 hours' time. For now, let's go back to the studio.